Are you started? We're on page 726, section 25.1, and we're now studying flatworms. Flatworms. This is a special group that you see here. Let me get the light. EGF up here. Could you pull that open for me back there? I got it. Thank you. Okay.
No.
Listen up.
No.
My turn.
Good. Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, I had to
Okay? We good? Yes?
Yeah, we're good. Go for it.
Alright. We studied sponges already. What phylum were they?
Phylum
Spongia.
Spongiophyta.
Porifera. Then phylum Cnidarians, those were the jellyfish, sea anemones, corals.
Very interesting.
Now we're at the flatworms. Flatworms are called phylum Platyhelminthes.
Is the quiz over?
A big word. Platyhelminthes. I always remember plate. A plate is flat. So platyhelminthes are flat worms. Helminth means worms. Flat worm. So these flatworms have three tissue layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. And anything with three tissue layers is from here and above. And we say if it has three tissue layers, we say it's an acoelomate, a pseudocoelomate, or a coelomate, depending on if it has a body cavity or not. And so all of these flatworms are acoelomates. They don't have a body cavity. They are bilaterally symmetric, which means if you cut them in half, you can only get equal halves if you cut them right down the middle. So, this is what one looks like. You can see its body looks very flat. It's not very thick. It's got a lot of stuff on it that is new in the animal kingdom that we haven't seen in earlier forms, like jellyfish. For instance, it's got what we call cephalization. Cephalization means it has a head, having a head region. We didn't see heads in sponges or in jellyfish. A head is a kind of a new invention of life. And so they have one. They have eye spots, little eyes that can see light. We didn't see that in sponges or jellyfish. Jellyfish didn't have eyes. So these little eye spots, now it looks like eyes like we have, but these eyes actually can't make out any images. They can't see, like they couldn't see me or you or what they look like. All these eye spots can see is light or dark. They can tell if they're in the light or in the dark. But that's helpful to the creature. If it's swimming, most of these are in the ocean. There's only one land form. All the rest of them are swim around in water. Or freshwater or ocean. But anyway, if some shadow comes over them, their eye spot can detect it and they can try and get away. That means something might be coming to eat them. You can see they have little hairs covering the edge of their body. Those are little cilia, and that helps them swim. The hairs move like this back and forth, and it pushes the flatworm along in the water. And it can also move its body like this to help move through the water like a snake. Now, you see this big tube they have right here? It's called a pharynx. And that tube can go up into its body, or it can stick the tube out of its body. And the tube is like a little vacuum cleaner. It suctions up stuff from the environment, usually mud, kind of at the bottom of the ocean. It sucks up the mud into its body, and then the mud goes everywhere where you see it's tan here. The mud goes all into this tan area. And anything that's in the mud that's edible, that can be eaten, gets absorbed from the mud. And then, after it's done, got all the good stuff out of the mud, it just squirts it back out through the pharynx. So it's kind of a waste eater, stuff that's at the bottom of the ocean. It can also eat, if it gets a particle of food, it can take that in directly through the pharynx. Question?
How big are those, like,
They vary in size. Y'all quit humming, please. They vary in size. The smallest ones are like that. And the bigger ones can get up to like that.
Ew.
Is a leech a tapeworm?
No, a leech is a segmented worm. We'll study those later.
That's nasty.
So, something else that they have that's interesting, and I'll show you some pictures of them in a minute, some video footage. They have what we call a flame cell excretory system. Meaning, if they want to get rid of wastes, what they do, I'm talking about nitrogen waste, pee wastes. Your cells are constantly creating this nitrogen waste. It's the yellow stuff that's in pee. It's ammonia is what it is, basically, a weakened form of ammonia. Your cells are creating this nasty ammonia all the time. And for you to get rid of it, your kidneys take it out of the blood, and then you pee it out. Well, these guys got to get rid of that nitrogen waste too, but they do so by taking in a fluid that's floating around in their body and suctioning in the fluid and squirting it out these tubes using special cells called flame cells. And they call them flame cells because they got little cilia in them. See these little hairs? They go back and forth. And the first guy who ever looked at it under the microscope saw the little hairs moving and said, that looks like a flickering flame. So he called them flame cells. And what happens is this does like that and pushes water, and water goes out through little holes in the side of the body of the planarian. So it pees out of holes in its side. Yes?
I thought, is it true, like, if it's yellow, if it is that color dehydrated or whatever? You know what I'm talking about?
Dehydrated.
talking about your pig?
Yeah.
Yeah, they said if it was like that color
If
of
it's
what you're
yellow.
talking about, it's yellow and you're dehydrated. Does that have anything to do with it? Or is it?
The more concentrated it is, the yellower it is in humans. Yeah, that's because you got more waste and less water. If you've got a lot of water in your body, it would dilute it and it would be less colored. Doesn't have anything to do with these guys.
I know that.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
He was talking earlier about how it flushed it out of your body and stuff.
Well, it's both a system of getting rid of nitrogen waste. In these guys, you never see it that concentrated.
Yeah.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but it just doesn't get as concentrated in these, because these things are living in the water. So they have a lot of water flushing through their system that they have to get rid of. Okay, let's take a quick look at its nervous system. This is the flatworm nervous system. And we see it's got a brain. These are the first organisms with a brain that we see. Sponges didn't have brains. Jellyfish didn't have brains. These do. They have a brain in the head region, and they have what we call a ladder-like nervous system. This looks like a long ladder going down their body with nerves going across. And you could almost, if you were thinking about the way this thing works, the nerve signals go down like this and then cut across, so it has feeling throughout its body. So if you touch it here, a signal will be sent up to the brain, and the brain will go, "Oh, I'm being touched," and the brain will figure out how to react to that. Yes.
How old are these worms?
How what? How old?
Yeah, how long have they been on Earth?
About 400, 500 million years, something like that. Yes.
If you touch one of those spots where like a nerve wasn't touching, would it not feel it? Like,
They have little microscopic nerves they aren't showing here,
okay.
going everywhere. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that's called a ladder-like nervous system. Here's a sexual reproductive system. All these worms, almost all these worms, are hermaphrodites. Hermaphrodite means having both sexes. So the blue part is the male reproductive system, and the pink part is the female reproductive system. You see ovaries right there? They make the eggs. And testes, there's a bunch of them, they make the sperm. And whenever two of these come together, they just trade sperm. One of them will give the other one sperm, and that one will give this one sperm, and now they both have sperm. And they can fertilize their eggs and then lay their eggs. Whoops.
Video footage.
How big are they?
Where do you
So, some of them are real small, and some of them could get bigger.
That one's only 5
What's
millimeters.
up? Wait, bro, what's an article?
Real small.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see the size here. That's 5 millimeters. That's 5 millimeters is about that big.
Hey.
So, but that's just this portion. So this thing's about maybe 50 millimeters long, which is about like that.
That's not even bad.
Bro, I have a question.
Yes.
What's an auricle?
Good question. Listen up. The auricle, which is right here, is a part of its body that can hear, can sense vibrations. It can also sense chemicals. So it hears and smells with that auricle. It's a little kind of a sensory pit. Here's some video footage of one swimming around. Uh-oh. It's not playing.
What'd you do?
Hold on.
More like boredom.
More like boredom.
Oh, I would not make out you.
Okay, watch video footage. This is under the ocean. That's a crawling flatworm, and there's a swimming flatworm. One more look. Crawling flatworm, swimming flatworm.
Cool.
How deep do they
Do they have, can they be either or? Are they either swimming or?
Some swim, some crawl.
But they can't do both?
I think they can do both.
Mr. Willis, if
Yes.
you wanted to see one, how deep would you have to go? Oh, yeah.
I don't know. They're probably all
Well,
dead.
like 40,000 leagues.
I would guess. Okay, still working here.
Under the turbine
Bennett.
seat.
There's too much talking back there between you and Taylor. Yes. This is this shows flatworm regeneration. If you take a flatworm and you cut it in half, which they've done here, the front half will grow a new tail, the back half will grow a new head. They have regeneration kind of like starfish. And some of them can regenerate just from a tiny piece, like you could cut a piece out of the middle and that would grow a tail and a head. And it takes days or weeks to grow the new head back, but it can do it over
What
time.
does it do?
Bennett had a question.
Why is that middle one like cut?
They're just showing that they've cut it
It's showing.
in the middle,
Cut it in half and then it grows.
and then it would,
Go back.
whichever side grows. It's not a very good picture. Yes?
What is the, I mean, you see the head in being able to survive for a little bit?
Yes.
Could regenerate. What's the tail do?
You
Just sit there.
They all just sit there and they use stored food to grow the new head.
Oh.
Yeah.
What if it was just a little section? How would it have enough like food to generate a head?
That's a good question. It would have to have enough. If you cut too small a piece, it wouldn't have enough. So it would have to be a big enough section to have enough stored food to grow a new section.
Or if you cut the part that has stored food in it off.
They're all probably.
The whole, everything. There's stored food everywhere.
If you can do that, what's it called? Like, what's your class?
Regeneration.
Regeneration.
Video footage.
Flatworms have a clearly defined head, which senses and responds to changes in the environment. Eye spots can detect the presence or absence of light. Located on each side of the head, sensory cells can detect food, chemicals, and movements in the environment. Excess water is removed from the planarian's body by a system of flame cells. Hair-like cilia that help the worm to pull itself along are located on the ventral surface of planarians. The pharynx is a muscular tube that can extend out through the planarian's mouth and is used to take food into the planarian's digestive system.
Interesting. Okay, all those types of flatworms there. This is phylum Platyhelminthes. There are 3 classes that we're going to study. Those flatworms that I just showed you are called class Turbellaria. And we say turbellarians are the free-living flatworms. When I say free-living, I mean that they can live on their own in the environment. They can swim around in the ocean or in streams. There is one type, a land flatworm, that can crawl around on land. I need to get a picture of that for you. I have one in my old presentation. I'll show that to you in a little bit. But so that's the first class. Now the second class are called trematodes. Class Trematoda.
Are these classes of Platyhelminthes?
Yes, phylum Platyhelminthes. These are the different classes. You got to know these classes. They'll be on the test.
Well, how much?
Class Trematoda are flukes.
Adult flukes?
Flukes are parasitic flatworms. When I say parasitic, I mean they live inside other creatures.
Do they hold embryos or something?
Yeah, I'll show you how their life cycle works right now. But it's not tapeworms. Tapeworms are the next classes. They're called flukes. And a fluke, flukes are some of the biggest sources of disease of people's. And I'm going to show you how this life cycle works. They have a life cycle that they follow. And they can get inside your bloodstream. And this is showing the life cycle of a fluke called schistosoma. And schistosoma causes a terrible disease known as schistosomiasis that kills a lot of people. And here's how it works. Inside the body of a person crawling around in the bloodstream are these adult flukes. And I'll show you how they get there. Well, let's start. I guess it starts with A here. So A shows you how it gets there. There's this larva form that swims around in the ocean that can burrow into your skin if you're standing in infected water. And you can see fluke larvae can burrow into bare human skin. The larvae travel through the blood to the intestine where development continues.
Is it like a tick?
But it's microscopic. It's much smaller than a tick. And it doesn't sit on the surface. It burrows all the way in. It goes into your bloodstream and migrates through your bloodstream into your intestine.
So it kills you, or?
Nope. Just listen. I'll show you.
You said it kills something.
So they live in your blood vessels and they lay a bunch of eggs into your intestine. And what happens is you go to the bathroom and in the feces, the doo-doo, the number 2, these little embryos are in there. And if you go to the bathroom in infected water, the embryos become this change form into this ciliated larva form. It's a cell that has cilia on the outside, and it'll swim around, and it'll actually swim into the body of a snail. It has to find the body of a snail. Why? I don't know. That's just how it does it. And it swims into the body of the snail, and the snail isn't hurt by any of this. But once it's in the body of the snail, it changes form into this tailed larva that then exits the body of the snail. The snail never even knew it was infected. And then the tailed larva form can penetrate the human host again. And so it causes all types of problems. The fluke eggs clot blood vessels, causing swelling and eventual tissue damage.
So, about how many people a year do you think get this?
Well, it's usually, these diseases are usually not found in America for a couple of reasons. One, we don't usually just go to the bathroom in water that people are walking around and swimming in. We go in toilets. And in America, we treat our toilets at sewage treatment plants with chlorine. And the chlorine kills embryos like this. So we don't have this cycle because people aren't swimming around and bathing and stuff in rivers and streams. But in other countries where the waste is not treated, in some countries you go to the bathroom in a toilet, and when you flush it, the water just goes into a nearby stream. It's never treated or anything. And so, in that way, the larval forms can multiply.
What happens to the adult fluke?
Those are what the adult flukes look like. They live in the body, in the bloodstream.
Just indefinitely.
Yeah, well, they can be, your white blood cells can fight these things and try and kill them.
Do they get long, like?
They're very small. No, they're microscopic. No, they're you can. This is a view with the scanning electron microscope. These things are very small. Watch the video footage now. They don't only infect humans. This shows one that infects fish and birds. Kind of an old video.
Adult worms live in the gut of a seagull. Sperm exchanged through opposing genital pores.
Those are worms mating.
Are stored in the seminal receptacles. The miracidium does not hatch until it has been eaten by the first intermediate host.
Okay, those are the little eggs that are laid in the gut of the bird.
The common seashore snail, Littorina littorea. The miracidia, which hatch out in the gut of the snail, penetrate the tissues where they promptly metamorphose into larvae of the second type, sporocysts. The redia is a sausage-like sac similar to the sporocyst, except that it has an oral sucker with a mouth leading to a rudimentary gut. Unlike the previous larval forms, which are nothing more than reproductive machines designed for a massive multiplication of numbers, the free-swimming Cercaria is an ectivore.
Now these are the things that swim around and can penetrate into your foot. Again, they're real tiny. This is under a microscope. Watch these things. They'll penetrate the body of a fish here.
Organism, and makes the change from one host to the next by its own unaided efforts.
They came out of the snail.
After penetration of the skin, the parasites generally migrate through the tissues of...
Now here it is. This is penetrating and going into the skin of a fish, but this could be a human it's going into.
the fish, often quite rapidly until they reach a suitable place for encystment. Transfer of the metacercaria from the fish to the main host, the seagull, is once more a passive procedure, at least from the standpoint of the parasite. All it has to do is to wait around until the fish is eaten by a gull.
So the gull eats the fish and then gets the worm inside of its body.
That's up.
It's pretty good.
So flukes are a parasitic form. There's another class that you have to know too. Class Cestoda. And these things are known as tapeworms.
So for the is the chapter 24 essay all the phylums and classes?
Do you have the essay sheet?
We're on chapter 25.
I know, but chapter 24 is where you see.
I think 24 is about the body of a sponge and an cnidarian.
Oh. Oh, okay. So wait, we don't have to do the whole. We only have to know some phylums and classes. Not
Yeah,
all
like
of
I'm
them.
not learning like the last
You
part.
need to know them. I mean, they'll be in the multiple choice.
No,
part.
I know, but not.
Like we're learning
the
that one and
entire
that one,
one.
like a couple chapters there. So like that's like 2 weeks or something.
Oh, okay, not the whole tree. All right.
Yeah, it's not going to be the whole tree.
Okay.
Okay, here's the life cycle of a tapeworm. Have you ever heard of a tapeworm before?
Yes, I have.
No.
Again, it's kind of like the fluke. The tapeworm is class Cestoda. And here we have a human. And here's the body of a human. And somehow the human swallows the worm. And I'll show you how the worm gets in meat that is infected. And if the human eats the meat gets into his stomach. And then the food is passed into the small intestine. In the small intestine, these little worms that are in a larva form come out of the larva form and grab onto the wall of the large intestine and start to grow. And here's one that attaches to the wall of the large intestine, and its body is starting to grow. And this body is going to grow longer and longer and longer over a period of weeks or months. And its body has a head part called a scolex that has hooks and suckers on it. Bennett and Tucker,
Yeah.
talking about tapeworms here. You need to hear this.
I got it.
You sit up?
I was reading through it.
Can you sit up?
Yeah.
Both of you?
So,
All the way up? Keep coming. You're good, Tucker. Bennett's still got some work to do. There you go.
I have a short course.
Okay. The head part is called the scolex, and it's got hooks on it that hooks into the wall of the intestine. And it's got suckers on it that suction into the wall of the intestine, so it's stuck there really good. And then it grows these long proglottids, these sections of its body, that fill with eggs. Millions and millions of eggs in each proglottid. And the eggs are released into the small intestine. And the eggs move through the small intestine into the large intestine. This is also called the colon. You may have heard that. And then you go to the bathroom and they come out. Here are the eggs. If you go to the bathroom on the ground somewhere, some pig or dog or something might root around in the doo-doo. Sometimes this is what animals do. You might have seen your dog eat doo-doo before. Pigs will do it too. And what happens is if they eat the doo-doo, the eggs from the doo-doo goes in their body and makes its way into the muscles of the pig. And a little larval form, the egg hatches into this larval form that looks kind of like this, and the larval form lives in the muscle of the pig. And will sit there for the entire life of the pig. So if you kill the pig and eat the meat of the pig and don't cook the meat well enough, the larval form survives. And if you eat that, it will get inside you and you'll have a tapeworm. What the tapeworms do is food that you eat, instead of getting into your body, it gets into the body of the tapeworm. And so people who have tapeworms suffer from malnutrition even though they're eating a lot. Some people will actually have in the past have eaten tapeworms to try and lose weight.
Are you serious?
Yeah. But it can cause sickness, malnutrition, you don't get enough vitamins, the tapeworms take all of your food. And the tapeworms, or not all your food, but a lot of it. The tapeworms can grow as long as the intestine, which is 30 feet.
Don't they like kill
I happen to have a tapeworm right here. It's in a little jar. This is a sheep tapeworm. And you can see it looks like a shoestring. I'll pass it around.
Don't they have those in like, in the animal, what is, I forget what the, where you take your animal and what are they called?
I have tape.
The,
Dog park.
no.
Veterinarian?
Yeah, the veterinarian.
The vet?
Don't they have those like all in the little jars?
I've never seen it. Maybe they do. But it doesn't have to be a human that gets it. A dog can get it. Horses. All animals will be exposed to tapeworms. This is another flatworm right here. That's a free living flatworm, like a
So I mean, it gets its own food.
yeah, gets its own food. It's not a parasite.
Oh my God.
Now, we don't have many tapeworms in this country for three main reasons. Number one, we don't go to the bathroom just on the ground anywhere. We usually go in a toilet. And again, it's treated in a sewage treatment plant. It's given a bunch of chlorine. Number two, we have meat inspection. If you go buy meat at the grocery store, it's probably been inspected. What inspectors do is take a shipment of meat that comes from a farm and they look at some of it under the microscope and see if it has these little larvae in it. And if it does, the meat doesn't pass inspection, and the farm is fined or whatever. So they try and keep their animals very clean, and we inspect our meat. One more thing. Finally, we cook our food. You don't normally kill an animal and eat its meat without cooking it. If you cook your food well enough, you don't run the risk of getting tapeworms. Yes?
So you have to eat it, can't like go through your feet or anything?
No, these kind don't go through your feet. Video footage? Oh, this is a good one. You'll like this.
So it had an Asian code.
What?
Parasites from fish can also turn up on our dinner plates.
I hate fish.
That looks so
It's been a good year for that diner over there. He's lost 5 pounds, but he's not sure why. Good diet, maybe. But now and then he's got this odd wriggling sensation in his gut. In his passion for fish, he must have overlooked one meal that wasn't properly cooked. The broadfish tapeworm never misses an opportunity and is set up home in his small intestine. It grows by adding segment after segment until it reaches the entire length of the human gut. How does the tapeworm survive the ravages of this hostile environment? And why doesn't it get digested like everything else? The surface of the tapeworm produces a barrier that's like an electric field, which protects it from being dissolved by our digestive juices. Our unlucky diner has to eat for two, himself and also his hungry guest. Unless the host eats more, lots more, he'll continue to lose weight. Some really desperate people have even tried to use tapeworms as a weight loss regimen. It's not recommended. Excuse me for a minute. The tapeworm's ability to reproduce is frightening. Each day, it can release more than 1 million eggs into the intestine, all vying to make it to adulthood. One flush, and the body snatchers are on the loose. Daylight prompts the young tapeworm to break out of its protective shell.
Powered by microscopic swimming hairs, the larva must now find its first host. Freshwater copepods like nothing better than to eat young tapeworms. Safe inside, it changes into a new body form and waits to be gobbled up by its next victim, a fish. Within 2 days, the larva embeds itself in the muscle of the trout. It can remain dormant here for the fish's entire life. But forever struggling against the odds, the parasite needs just one more lucky break. All it needs is a nice warm gut. Bear, dog, cat, or human. This is one fish he'll wish he never caught. The angler has only one chance to keep the unwanted guest out of his body. He must cook the fish all the way through to kill the larva inside, but he doesn't. The larva survives. The fisherman now has a guest that may live with him for the next 10 years. Fortunately, most of us are spared this unpleasant fate, but other worms wreak havoc on people's lives. Nearly half of the world's population is affected by worms. This worm alone afflicts some 200 million people with a disease called schistosomiasis. It can cause painful abdominal disorders, cancer, and even death.
Those, if you find an animal in the wild, see, animals don't cook their food and they don't go to the bathroom and toilets, and so almost all of them are infected with some of these worms. The worms can live inside the bodies of these animals for the entire life of the dog or cat or bear or whatever without killing them. Normally they don't kill them, they just live inside of them and eat some of their food.
What do you do to get rid of one if you have one?
In the car.
They have medicine. You can take medicine that'll kill it.
Can you really feel it wiggling?
Sometimes if the worms are too bad, they got to go in there and surgically remove them.
Oh.
Yeah, and you could feel them wiggling.
That's why we don't drink
You
it.
can.
That's why we don't have drinks in here, Sophie.
Come on.
That's what Graham said.
Your hand.
Okay, so that's it. You have to read 25.1. Very well could be a quiz on it tomorrow.
Bro.
Will is out.